Hello students, in this video we're going to solve some problems that require us to apply the concepts of trigonometric functions. To begin off, let's recap on some of the concepts that we have learned so far. We have learned that the sine and the cosine functions can be expressed in the form y equals to a sine bx plus c or y equals to a cos bx plus c. And what does A represent? A represents the amplitude of the sine or the cosine curve. And to find the periods of the sine and the cosine curve, we can just take 360 degrees divided by b or 2 pi over b. For applications of trigonometric functions, the angles that we'll be playing with will be in the radian mode. So therefore, we'll be using 2 pi over b most of the time. And C represent the axis of the graph. Now here I need to remind you that this C here that you see, the symbol C, it is not the same as the straight line graph y equals mx plus c. The straight line graph y equals mx plus c, the c represents the y-intercept. The y-intercept. Here the c represents the axis of the graph. So do not confuse yourself, okay, with this the letter C. Okay, it's has different meaning when you use in different situation. All right. So how do you find the, okay, let's look at the sine curve. Right, so that's how your sine curve looks like. This is the basic shape for y equals to sine x. So you need to know the maximum y is 1, minimum is -1, and all the corresponding angles for each quadrant. So that's one cycle. All right, for y equals to sine x. And for cos x, the maximum y is 1, minimum y is -1, and all the corresponding angles, right, to gives you the various value of y, okay, and the period is 2 pi for the y equals to cos x, okay. So if you want to find the period for y equals to a sine bx plus c, then it will be 2 pi divided by b, okay. Likewise for y equals to a cos bx plus c, then the period will be 2 pi divided by b, okay. Right, then the next thing is okay, we need to know how to find the amplitude. So basically the amplitude is just the height of the curve, meaning this. Okay, I don't know why my stylus pen is not working. Sometimes it's a bit gila like that. Anyway, so the amplitude is just you use the maximum y minus the minimum y divided by 2. That will give you the amplitude. And to find the axis of the graph, which is the letter C, the axis of the graph, is to get the maximum y value plus the minimum y value divided by 2. So basically, you just have to remember these two formulas to find your amplitude and also to find the axis of the graph. Okay, let's look at example 1. So the example 1, it's a Ferris wheel. Okay, Ferris wheel, but you have a, if you look at the diagram, this Ferris wheel have radius 15 meter, and this Ferris wheel is 3 meter above the ground. All right, so the diameter will be 30 meter, right? 15 times 2 is 30. So basically, if you are here, okay, if you're at the highest point here, you are actually 15 plus 15 plus 3, that is you're 33 meter above the ground. Okay, if you're at the point where I put the blue yellow well, it is blue, yeah, blue arrow. So you're at 33 meter above the ground, and then if you're at the lowest point, then you are at 3 meter above the ground, right? So if you look at this is a sine curve, and there's an inverted sine curve, and this one here, one cycle, that will be one cycle. Okay, now my stylus pen is working. It's a bit cuckoo already. Sickening. All right, so that is one cycle. So one cycle it's 50 pi seconds. 50 pi seconds give you one cycle. That will be the period, okay, for this sine curve. Okay, so what do? We're supposed to find a trigonometry equations, right, to model the height. Supposed to find, right, so this one is a sine curve, so the trigonometric equation will be in the form y equals to a sine bx, y equals to a sine bt plus c. Right, so these are the informations that I've mentioned just now. Okay, so the amplitude will be the highest minus the lowest divided by 2 gives you 15. Actually, you can just tell the amplitude from the graph, that is 15 meter. Okay, even without having to take 33 minus 3 divided by 2 from the graph, you can tell that the amplitude is 15. And then the y-axis value, it's this value here. Also from the graph, you can tell it's 18. Otherwise, it just be amplitude plus 3 meter. Okay, because this one will be 18, so plus another 3 here, so 18 plus 3 gives you, sorry, that is 15. What am I talking? The amplitude is 15, right? So it's 15 plus 3 gives you 18 meter, right? So using, yeah, y equals to a sine bt plus c, so we can all right, we still need to find the b. Yes, of course. So to find b is just 2 pi over b equals to 15 pi 50 pi, because 50 pi it's the period. So from there you can get b to be 1 over 25, and you substitute everything into the trigo equations. And because the curve is inverted, all right, your a must be negative 15. Okay, this one I should not put a equals to 15. A is negative 15. Okay, because the curve is inverted. Amplitude is 15. Amplitude is always positive, but a can be negative or positive depending on the shape of the curve. Here your curve is inverted, therefore a is negative 15. Right, so this is how you do it. It's not very difficult. All right, so let's look at the next question. This questions, it's a challenge questions, so it will be good that you try to do these questions first on your own, okay, without looking at my solutions. Try it on your own. It's quite similar to the one we have done earlier on, except that the curve given to you, it's a cosine curve, right? So for the cosine curve, then the equations will be y equals to a cos bt plus c. All right, so from the curve is quite clear that the amplitude is 8, right? This one will gives you here 8 meter, right? So basically, and this is an upright cosine curve, so a is just 8. One cycle, what is one cycle? So one cycle is from here to here, that's one cycle, right? So the period for that one cycle is 300 seconds. So that information can help us find the values of b. Right, so b will be equals to 1 over 150 pi. Okay, then the next thing is to find the axis of the curve, which is the value for c. So basically you just take the axis of the curve. Actually you can also see it from the graph. This is your axis of the curve, right? Basically the axis of the curve will just divide the curve into 2 equal half lah. You know, how to get 2 equal half? Your amplitude is 8 here, and then the other one is 8 there, right? So that means this line is just basically y equals to 8 plus 1.5. Okay, 8 plus 1.5, which gives you 9.5. But you can also use the formula. Basically, the formula is just take the maximum y plus minimum y. Maximum y will be 17.5 as indicated there for you to see. Right, and then minimum y it's 1.5, also indicated in the arrow there. Divide by 2 and that gives you 9.5. Otherwise you can just use the earlier explanation that I've just gave you. And then yeah, what else do you need to find? No. Okay, so we have found B, we have found A, we have found C. Just plug everything into y equals to A cos BT plus C. Yes, and that will give you the answer. Okay. Okay, let's look at another example. And this example, I think it's we will wish to have this kind of temperature right now because now it's almost every day raining, 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 right? But in the month of July, right, we will have this very good weather where there's a low of 21 degrees Celsius at 1 a.m. Okay, and then a high of 36 degrees Celsius at 1 p.m. But actually also not that wonderful weather lah. 36 is too hot really. Okay, but as compared to now, which is raining every day, okay, which one do you prefer? All right. So anyway, we can actually model the average daily temperature. All right, using a sine curve, that's T equals to A sine BT plus C, right? Okay, so this one is slightly harder in the sense that they didn't give you the curve. The curve is not given to you. So basically you have to, what do you call that? You have to draw the curve yourself to determine the values of A. Because remember we said that A can be positive or negative, right? Okay, so that's why I actually highlighted one important information for you. That is, it says that T is the time after 7 a.m. So what is the significance of this information? All right, so think about it. Why do they have to tell you that the time T is time in hours after 7 a.m.? Okay, yeah, because that piece of information will actually tell you the shape of the curve that will determine if your A is positive or negative. All right, so what do we need to do first? Let's find the maximum temperature is 36, minimum temperature is 26. So from there we can find your amplitude, can find your axis of the graph. So your amplitude will be 5 and the axis of the, okay, one cycle is 1 day, okay, it's 24 hours. So therefore the period is 24 hours. All right, so you can find B by using 2 pi divided by B equals to 24. That from there you can find B to be 1 over 12 pi. Okay, and then what else do we need? Yes, we need to find the axis of the curve, right? Yeah, so the axis of the curve is maximum T plus minimum T divided by 2. All right, so the next thing now is that we need to determine, right, if A is positive or negative. So how do we do it? Right, so basically we have found the values of the amplitude is 5, right? So now we need to decide if your A is negative 5 or 5. Right, so I'm going to show you two diagrams. If you look at these two diagrams, which diagram do you think is the correct one? You see that the second diagram kind of makes sense lah, because the maximum point is 36, right? The maximum y value, minimum y value is 26, and then this is your y equals to 31 is your axis of the curve, right? This one should be 31. Okay, but why is the second graph wrong? Yeah, correct. The second graph is incorrect because it does not take into considerations that the T starts only after 7 a.m. That is the important information that I asked you to take note of in the beginning. Do you remember? So the correct diagram actually is this one here. Okay, when it starts at 7 a.m., then the axis of the curve is 31. Basically, also that will give you 31 when you substitute T to be 0. Sine 0 is 0, so 0 plus 31 will give you 31. Okay, and then the maximum y value, the temperature, the maximum temperature is 36 at 1 p.m. and then 26 at 1 a.m. Right, so this is the correct curve. Okay, so therefore your A should be negative 5. That means your curve is y equals to negative 5 sine 1 over 12 pi bracket T plus 31. Okay, this is how you do it. Okay, so for challenge yourself too, likewise, do try it out on your own before you look at my solutions. Okay, so this one, I've highlighted two things for you. The first highlight is there are two high tides and two low tides in 24 hours. But usually when we draw one cycle, we would just have one high and one low, right? We don't really, one cycle, we just have one highest point and one lowest point, right? So if there are two high tides and two low tides in 24 hours, what does it tell you about the period? Okay, and so, right, the low point is at 0.1 meter at 11 a.m. The high point is at 2.7 meter at 5 p.m. Okay, and you can model this using H equals to A sine B T plus C. And T start after 8 a.m. So you ask to find the values of A and B and also the values of C, which is actually not difficult because amplitude is just maximum minus minimum divided by 2, right? That will give you the amplitude. Oh, that C is part 2. I actually do part 2 first. Because part 2 you ask to find the values of C. So C is basically just the maximum Y plus minimum Y divided by 2. So that's your C. And amplitude, it's maximum Y minus minimum Y divided by 2 gives you 1.3. Okay, but the amplitude, it's positive. A can be negative or positive, right? The next thing is that we need to find your periods. So just now we mentioned that two high tides and two low tides in 24 hours. So therefore, one high, one low will be in 12 hours. So 2 pi over b is equals to 12. So from there, you can find b to be 1 over 6 pi, right? Okay, now the next thing is that we need to have a sketch of the graph. You need to sketch the graph to determine if your A is positive or negative. Okay, so we're talking about 12 hours period. So we start with 8 a.m. 8 a.m. to the next 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. will be 12 hours. Right, so at 8 a.m. your axis, the yc equals to 1.4 is your, this value here is your axis of the graph, right? Okay, and then at 8 a.m. you have the 11 a.m. sorry, 11 a.m. you have the lowest point, which is 0.1. Then at 5 p.m. highest point. Okay, so you join them up, and then you must end at 8 p.m. because it's 12 hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. is 12 hours. So ends at 8 p.m. and ends at 1.4. So from the curve, you can see that it's an inverted sine curve. So therefore, your A is negative 1.3. A is negative 1.3. Amplitude is 1.3 lah. So A is equals to negative 1.3. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. A is negative 1.3. So your equations of your of your sine curve will be y equals to negative 1.3 sine bracket 1 over 6 pi times t. Remember, must put the t there plus 1.4. Okay, so sometimes the questions can be in the form of, let's look at example 3, can be in the form of a pendulum. All right, a pendulum. So if you read the questions, you have a mass that's attached to a spring, right? And then you pull the spring to position C, and then you let go. So can you imagine what will happen? Because it's a spring, right? So the mass will go up and down, pop, 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 up and down. Okay, so the mass will bob up to position A. So assuming the mass never loses any energy or momentum, you oscillate up and down between A and C, so it forms a sine curve. All right, form a sine curve. And so therefore, the sine curve is d equals to 10 sine pi over 3t. So how far is C from B? How far is C from B? So from your d equals to 10 sine pi over 3t, by now you should be very proficient to tell me that amplitude is 10. Okay, amplitude is 10, and then yes, the axis of the graph is 0. C is equal to 0. C is equal to 0. So the axis of the graph is 0. Your amplitude is 10. So B is pi over 3. So from there you can find your period. Yeah, okay. So C is for part I, how far is C from B? So from the diagram, we can just clearly see that it's 10 units below B. Okay, you must make sure it says it's below B. The C is below B. Okay, important thing is this part here. You don't just say C is 10 units from B is below B, okay? Right, and then we can find your periods, which is 2 pi over B. So it's 2 pi divided by pi over 3 give you 6 seconds. So in other words, 6 seconds is from A to C and then C to A. Okay, A to C and C to A will give you 6 seconds. So therefore, A to C only will be half of it, which is 3 seconds. Because your one cycle is from C to A, then A to C, right? All right, the next question is how far is the mass from B when T is 3.5? So it's quite easy relatively. You just substitute T equals to 3.5 into your equations. Okay, the only thing that I need to remind you is that we are dealing with angle in radian mode. So when you want to use a calculator to work out sine, to work out this one, when you substitute T to be 3.5. When you want to use a calculator to work out this value, okay, please remember to change your calculator mode to radian. Change the calculator rate to radian if you want to use pi. Okay, so that will give you d equals to -5. So what does this negative tells you about the position? The positions of this mass. What does the negative tells you about the position of the mass? Yes, it tells you that the mass is actually 5 units below point B. Negative tells you that it's below point B. Okay, because your point B is actually your x-axis. So anything that's below your x-axis is negative, anything above is positive. So the negative tells you that the mass B is 5 units below point B. Okay, so that's part 3. Part 4 is find the 2 earliest time when the mass is 5 centimeter above B. Right, so above B means your D is positive 5. Okay, above B means D is positive 5, so we substitute D equals to 5. Alright, so we have to find your reference angle, which is pi over 6. So for sine to have a positive under your ASTC, so you see all these things are linked, okay, from your sine curve to your ASTC for finding reference angle and all the formulas, double angle, addition formula, everything are formula, all these are all linked together, okay? So you need to know all these things before you can actually solve these applications of trigo functions. Alright, so the first answer will come from the first quadrant, which is just t equals to pi over 3 t equals to alpha. And then the second quadrant will be pi minus pi over 6. So from there you can pi t, pi over 6 divided by pi over 3. That gives you half second. This is half second. Or 0.5 second. The second answer will be 2.5 seconds. Alright, so this is the last challenge for this chapter. Challenge yourself 3. So as what I've mentioned for the first 2 challenges, do try it on your own. They're very similar to the examples I've done. Okay, so try it on your own and then before you look at my solutions. Alright, so this is the same kind of a concept, you know, when you pull a mass, there's a mass attached to a spring, you put it down to position C and then you let go. And then the mass will just bob up and down, bob to position A, okay, and then up and down between A and C. Alright, so if you look at the diagram here, look at what you're given. Quite clearly we can see that this is an inverted sine curve. That's why your A is -8. So the amplitude is 8. Amplitude is 8. So you can indicate on the diagram, okay, the amplitude there. So from here you can see that C is just 16 units below A. 16 centimeter from A. Okay, 16 centimeter from A. So that's part I. Quite easy. Alright, so for part 2, how long does it take from the mass to go from C to A and back to B? So from C to A and back to B. Okay, so we need to find the periods. So the highlighted for you, the one in yellow is one cycle, and one cycle, it's how do we get 8 seconds? We need to calculate the periods. You're given B to be pi over 4, right? If you compare this one with the general equation, which is D equals to A sine BT plus C, then your B is pi over 4. So the period will be 2 pi divided by pi over 4. Okay, 2 pi divided by pi over 4 give you 8 seconds. So that means 8 seconds is from C to A and A to C. C to A and A to C is 8 seconds. That's one cycle. So therefore C to A will be 4 seconds, half of it, right? Right, so C to A will be 4 seconds. So C to B will be even half of your C to A. C to A is 4 seconds, so C to B will be half of it, isn't it? Or A to B. C to B is the same as A to B, will be half of it, right? Which is 2 seconds, right? So if you want to find from C to A, that will be 4 seconds. And then from A back to B, 2 seconds. So therefore altogether 6 seconds. Alright, so that is part 2. So part 3, okay, how far is the mass from A when T is 2? So likewise as what we've done earlier on, substitute T to be 2. Okay, D is 8, negative 8. So what does negative 8 tells you? Yes, negative 8 tells you that the mass is 8 cm below point A. Sorry, not 8 cm. D is equals to negative 8. So that means from the diagram, this is 8. So this is 8. And then you want to find from A. So this is another 8. 8 here and 8 here. Okay? Because the negative 8 means that it's below point B. Negative tells you it's below point B. Okay, below point B, because point B is the one that you have the x-axis. This is your t-axis. It's like your x-axis, like t-axis. So anything below your t-axis is negative, right? So negative 8 means here is negative 8. Okay, and then there's another 8 on top of it, because you're finding from A. If you're finding from B, then it's just 8. You're finding from B, then it's just 8. But you're finding from A, right? So it's 8 plus 8 give you 16 centimeter. So that's part 3. Okay, let's come to the last part of the questions. Find the 2 earliest time when the mass is 2 cm below C. So you see, below below B, the 2 cm below B. Alright, so you'll be very careful when you substitute the value into, in this case here, your D has to be negative because it's below B. So if you substitute D to be positive 2, then your answer will not be accurate, will not be correct, not accurate, will not be correct. So the mass is 2 cm below B, so therefore D is negative 2. Okay, so you find reference angle, leave it to 4 significant figure first. So first quadrant will be just, yes, so T will be just 0.2527 divided by pi over 4. Second quadrant will be pi minus alpha. So from there, the 2 earliest time will be 0.322 second or 3.68 second. And yes, and this is actually the last part of our last questions from this video. And we can congratulate ourselves by a yeah and the smiling face. Yes.